morphology. So basically, uh, it's all to do with words. Okay. In the introductory part, I'll let you know the profile of a word, then how the word was invented, and how kinds of words, then how word as an abstract entity, uh, then word as an abstract entity, the grammatical word, then various definition of word, then meaning and grammatical function of the word, then relationship between labels, composition or realization. So these are the concepts which we are going to cover in the initial part of the class. Okay. Mr. Vijay Swami, you can switch off your video, I guess. Yes.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Yeah. So morphology is basically it's about word formation. You know, for us, for students of English, or those who are those who are not the students of English as well, words, we haven't analyzed them from a point of view of a linguist. We have always analyzed words. We have never analyzed words. We have just studied them, read them, whatever. But in English honors or English PG or in this MEG class, you need to dive deep. You need to understand the mechanism. Like in the last few classes, we discussed speech mechanism and phonology and other parts of other aspects of language. But now it's time for morphology, that is word formation, and it's everything to do with words. So let's start with word. I mean, in your English uh, study material of aspects of language block 4, you might see in the introductory page, you have a lot of emphasis is being given to words. I will run through certain PPTs, but right now I'll just limit myself to audio only because I don't have current right now. I mean, in this part of the world, there is no current. It's raining pretty heavily, but yet we have to continue our class. Like people say that so must go on. Okay. So when you type word in a dictionary or a dictionary app, what kind of meanings you find? There are various meanings crops up. Something like something in the book itself, it is mentioned. uh, some people term it as a command or a saying or a proverb or a text or a promise or a declaration, maybe a contention. Okay. And technically speaking, it's an element of speech. Yes, of course it is an element of speech, a combination of sounds, one such sound, something like that. Word can refer to a name, a title, or an idea, the printed marks, or a telegraphic message. Word can be many things. I mean, word is the central figure of our language, and we need words to start with. Only if we know morpheme and phoneme or phonology and morphology, if you get to know all these things, then only you get into the concept of sentences and other things. But while we were studying as a student in our kind of school days or early career college days, we never bothered about these technical aspect of words. Okay. Okay, Amrita Chakrabarti is asking, sir, is it block 4? Yes, it is block 4. Okay. So how different dictionaries have defined words? I mean, define the word. Oxford English Dictionary defines word as a combination of vocal sounds or one such sound used in a language to express an idea and constituting an ultimate minimal element of speech having a meaning as such. if all of you would have seen the movie Three Idiots, there is a classic case of a classic example there, like a book. If you want to convince a layman what is a book, there are thousand ways in which you can tell the layman that book is something like this. But if you want to go with the bookish definition, then what is the answer. Likewise, in a word is very simple to us, because word is the central thing in our concept in today's discussion as well. But when it comes to technical aspects of that, when it comes to the definition of that, okay, somebody is asking that, let me present that, let me show you that particular page. Okay. Yeah, all of you can see the screen right now. Please reply with audio or text.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So
Yes,
you can
sir.
see that Oxford English Dictionary defines word as a combination of vocal sounds or one or such sound used in language to express an idea, or rather to denote a thing, attribute, or relation, something like that, or constituting an ultimate meaning element of speech, having a meaning as such. When it comes to the meaning of word, nobody ever told us that word, the meaning of the word or the word meaning of word, is like this. But since we are studying, masters, I mean, we need to be master of the language, so we need to be very technical and very categorical in terms of what we know. Okay. Collins English Dictionary defines word as one of the units of speech or writing that native speakers of a language usually regard as the smallest isolable meaningful element of the language, although linguists would analyze these further into morphemes. Again, we'll get into morphemes later. Okay. Again, another dictionary called American Heritage Dictionary defines word as a sound or a combination of sounds or its representation in writing or printing that symbolizes or communicates a meaning and may consist of a single morpheme or of a combination of morphemes. Webster's dictionary defines word as a speech sound or series of speech sounds that symbolizes and communicates a meaning without being divisible into smaller units capable of independent use. Basically, it's a combination of letters. That's what we have been taught since our childhood days. But it's a combination of letters, but having meaningful combination. It should produce some kind of meaning. Not always, but mostly. Okay. So that is what various dictionaries have defined word as it is. Let's summarize that. Okay. In your study material, let's profile a word. Okay. What are the characteristics of the word? Number one, a word is made of a sound or a series of sounds. Of course, when I talk to you, there are sounds or there are series of sounds. We may also apply to describe presentations of in writings. Of course, a word is a unit of speech. Yes, word is a unit of speech. When you speak, it's a combination of many units of speeches. Of course, a word is made of a sound or a series of sounds. Both are true. What is number 3 definition of the profile? The definitions do not seem to agree on whether or not the word is the smallest unit, because some people say that it is morpheme, some say it is a combination of morphemes. So that's a separate debate. We'll discuss that later. Okay. So these are the basic characteristics of words, like word is made of a sound, a series of sounds, a word is a unit of speech. And regarding other debates and discussions around that definition 2, 3 and other things, do not bother, because if you get into that, you will be in trouble. Just focus yourself, just focus on the basic parts. Okay. Guess. Kind of words. Word may be word as a physical shape. It can be phonological and orthographic. You might ask, sir, what is phonological and what is orthographic? Let's say, red, or let's say read. Okay. This phonemic transcription is the phonological word, but actual word in written form, like read or read, whatever it is, right here it is read, right here it is read. So both of them are orthographic. That means, something which is in phonemic transcription, that is phonological thing, and something which is written like normal one, like this one, this is orthographic. So word as a physical shape, it may be phonological, it may be orthographic. Okay. Then word entity. Okay. But to understand this abstract entity, you need to get into other grammatical paradigms. Something like you need to understand lexeme. Okay, in context of teaching this particular paper or particular block, I should tell you that all of you do have your study materials. You go to this particular part of the chapter, like that is where you find something like
Excuse me, sir. Hello, sir.
let's check.
Hello, sir.
Yes, yes.
Your sound is not
Yes.
coming clearly, sir.
Same problem, sir.
It is sound is not
And
clear.
yes,
No, sir.
earlier point also, what you have told not to understand.
Not clear,
Okay,
sir.
this screen is visible, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, the
Okay.
screen is visible.
Screen is visible, but the audio is not visible, right?
Yes, sir. Please
Okay.
please explain before point also.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
I get
Sir.
that. Let me say, then we take it. Okay. Just a sec. Let me. Hello. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Am I audible to all of you?
Yes, sir.
So now clear.
Now
Now
clear.
clear, right?
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. I'm coming
Okay,
to
sir.
that. Okay. Once more, I'm sharing my screen. Yeah. Now, is it audible and visible to all of you?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes. Audible and visible also, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So what I wanted to let you know that in each chapter towards the end, you have something called keywords, right? And you also have a summary of the whole chapter. Let's see this particular unit 1. You have a summary towards the end, and you have keywords. Okay. like right here, bound morpheme, composition, free morpheme, function words, grammatical word, homographs, homonym, homophones, internal stability, lexical words or lexeme, okay, minimum free form, morphemes, orthographic word, phonological word, polysemy, positional mobility, realization, okay, something like this. First, before any kind of class, what happen if you go through this summary and go through these keywords in each unit, I guess it will be better for all of us to discuss and debate, because you will be in a position to to ask questions and to have doubts and have something meaningful to talk to. Okay, so I would suggest, rather I would prescribe or subscribe that all of you should do that, because next time onwards it will be better for all of you to come prepared. Okay. Okay, I'm coming to that. Actually, the problem with the text is too large, too varied as well. So if I follow the text line by line, then it will be difficult to complete our courses in terms of the prescribed time. Okay. So the definition of word, a minimum free form. You might ask me, sir, what is a minimum free form? Okay, for to have a definitive definition of that, I'll present you a kind of a PPT. That would be better, because right here it is very clumsy and it's very kind of difficult to run through this. I just wanted to let you know that this is what you need to do. Okay. Is it visible to all of you right now, the slides?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Visible,
Okay.
sir.
Okay. Now we are in business. Yes. Now, what is morphology? The words of a language, or definitions of morphology and morpheme, I'll let you know in the due course of time. Then types of morphemes. What is a free morpheme? What is a bound morpheme? And what is a derivational morpheme? And what is an inflectional morpheme? Okay. Now, what is morphology? The study of the internal structure of words and the interrelationship among words. That is called morphology. Okay, the study of the internal structure of words and the interrelationship among words. That is morphology. The word morphology consists of two morphemes, morph and ology. The suffix ology means science of or branch of knowledge concerning. So meaning of morphology is the science of word forms or forms. That is what is the meaning of morphology is. Then every word has its internal structure, like whatever the words we are communicating right now, whatever I'm telling you, that is also having some morphological structure, that is having some internal morphological structure. And intuitions tell us that the word change cannot be broken into any meaningful parts. Maybe, let's see. In contrast, the words changes, changed, changer, changing seems to consist of one element of change. And what is that? And those elements are, towards the end you find s, you find ed, you find er, you find ing at the end. And what does it mean? It is derived from a Greek word which is morph, which means form, like I've already told you. It is a linguistic term for the most elemental unit of grammatical form or the basic parts of a complex word in a language. They cannot be broken down any further into recognizable or meaningful parts. Like I told you earlier, that it is also debatable. Some linguists believe that morpheme should be the last meaningful part, but right here, a study says that words should be the basic part of a complex word in a language. Oh, sorry, the morph. Okay, let me go back to the yes. So I confused myself with morph with word, but it is technically, it's a morph is a linguistic term for the most elemental unit of grammatical form. In other words, it is called morpheme, okay, or the basic parts of a complex word in a language. So in phonology, we studied what is a phoneme. Who can tell me what is a phoneme? Please type or tell me.
Sir, is it a unit of sound?
Definitely, it's a unit of sound. How to define that?
Um, a unit of sound that can be separated from another. Distinct unit of sound.
Okay, a phoneme is a sound or a group of different sounds, okay, perceived to have the same function by speakers of the language. Likewise, it's a very unit of sound which should have a vowel or a consonant or any vowel or consonant. Who can tell me?
Sir, I think they are all separate.
Yes, they are all separate, but a phoneme can consist a vowel as well as a consonant.
I think so. It can be both vowel and consonant.
So
Either.
technically speaking, a phoneme is the smallest unit of speech, distinguishing one word from another. Okay, that is the technical definition of a phoneme. But in case of morpheme, it is a linguistic term for the most elemental unit of grammatical form or basic part of a complex word. But in that case, it is about sound unit, right? In this case, it's a unit of grammatical form. So that is the difference, because in terms of phonetics or linguistics, you need to correlate whatever you have studied in past and whatever you are right now studying, so that you will be in a position to understand and negotiate your way through towards the next chapter or next concept. Okay. So it is also a unit of grammatical functions, include forms used to indicate past tense or plural. Okay, that is what morpheme is. Okay, and what is morphology? The study of internal structure of words and the interrelationship between interrelationships among words. That is morphology. And what is morpheme? It's a linguistic term for the most elemental unit of grammatical form. What is phoneme? Phoneme is the smallest unit of speech distinguishing one word from another. Okay. Now, look at the examples. You are very familiar with these examples. Nothing new in this, no rocket science. What is morpheme? I'm giving you examples, how it is connected to each other. Okay. Boy, cake. Then in plural forms, boys, dates, bips, cakes. Okay. Then study the examples. Each of the plural nouns listed is made up of two morphemes. A base morpheme is such as boy or date, but a plural morpheme is s, only the letter s, which is attached to the base morpheme of boy or date. Therefore, morphemes are the minimal units of word building in a language. They cannot be broken down any further into recognizable parts. Okay, so this is what the morpheme is. This is what morphology is. Now a single word may contain one, or it can be called monomorphemic word, or more morphemes like polymorphemic word. Like in phonetics, we studied monosyllabic word, then polysyllabic words. If there is one syllable in a particular word, then it is monosyllabic. If there are multiple syllables, sound units, okay, with each containing a vowel sound, that is a syllable, and one syllable, monosyllabic word, multiple syllables, polysyllabic words. Okay, so one morpheme words example, boy, desire. Two morphemes, boyish, desirable. Three morphemes, boyishness, desirability. Okay, usually we accept these words are normal words, but you look deep, you find there are a lot of things involved in that. There is morphology, there is morpheme, there is kind of word formation, there are prefix, there are suffixes, there are many things. I'll let you know what are those. Then four morphemes, gentle manliness, that is also a word. Undesirability, then un plus desire plus able plus ity, in this case gentle plus man plus li plus nes, that is four morpheme words. Then more than four morpheme words, ungentlemanliness. Okay, you have un, then gentle, then man, then li, then ness. Okay, and who can pronounce this particular last word? That is anti plus dis plus establish plus ment plus ari plus an plus ism. Please type in the text box or pronounce that. Preferably switch on your audio and pronounce that. But one by one. Okay.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
It is anti-disestablishmentarianism.
No, you are doing it correctly, but you need to be fast. You are pretty slow. If you go slow.
Sorry,
Yes.
sir. Anti-disestablishmentarianism.
Yes. Now you're better. Yes.
Anti-disestablishmentarianism.
Hello, sir.
Is anyone singing there?
Anti-disestablishmentarianism.
Okay. Okay. Now let's go to the next slide. Yes. The meaning of a morpheme must be constant. Okay. The agentive morpheme means er means one who does. Singer. Somebody who sings is a singer. Somebody who paints is a painter. Somebody who loves is a lover. And somebody who works is a worker. But the same sound represents the comparative morpheme meaning more. Something like nicer, prettier, and taller. Thus, two different morphemes may be pronounced identically. The identical form represents two morphemes because of the different meanings. What I wanted to tell you in this particular slide is, if you add er in a particular word, in some cases, the meaning turns out to be one who does singing is singer, one who paints is painter, one who works is worker. Okay. But in certain cases, if you add er towards the end, it means more. Nice, nicer. Pretty, prettier. Tall, taller. Okay. So that is how morpheme can be very deceptive, and the study of morphology can be very confusing. So you need to act pretty fast, and you need to act study it very sincerely and seriously. Yes, the same sound may occur in another word and not represent a separate morpheme, like finger. You have finger, er is there, but it's not a separate morpheme. You might ask me why. There is no answer for there, because English is not a native language. those who taught us English, those who are native speakers of English, they have formulated this particular rule, and we have to follow that. There is no option. Until and unless we become more specialist in English theory and language, where we can challenge their authority, and till that day we have to follow their rules. On the contrary, the two morphemes er and ster have the same meaning but different forms, like singer and songster, means one who sings. All these follow from the concept of the morpheme as a sound plus meaning unit. So I'm actually kind of giving you more varieties of conceptual understanding of morpheme. Okay, let's go back a bit. In this slide, I told you the etymological meaning of morpheme. That is, it's from Greek word morph, which means form. Okay, then the meaning is it's a linguistic term for the most elemental unit of grammatical form. Okay, and it has some grammatical functions as well. Then I gave you these examples. Then I gave you examples of nouns, plural nouns. Then I gave you 1 morpheme words, 2 morpheme words, 3 morpheme words, 4 morpheme words, more than 4, or like polysyllabic words. I gave you multiple morphemes in a particular word. Then I gave you example of er, how the meaning changes, even though the morphemes are same. Then what did I tell you here? I gave you another example where there is er is there, but there is no separate morpheme. Again, in terms of er and ster, you have this, but there are two different meanings as well. So technically, morpheme sometimes act as a sound only, and sometimes it has sound plus meaning as well. Mostly it is sound plus meaning. Okay. Then again, in the book, there are multiple categories of words. I'll get into that, but primarily, you may call simple, compound, and complex. But technically, in terms of morphology, two general classes, like simple and complex words. Simple words, boy and desire, are single free morphemes. They cannot be broken down into further meaningful parts. Complex words such as disagreement, undesirable, consist of 2 or more morphemes in a combination. Complex words consist of a morpheme, root or base, and 1 or more affixes. You'll ask me what is root or base. Okay, you will get to know in future slides or in future examples. Just wait.
Hello, sir. Excuse me,
Yes.
sir.
Yes.
Disagreement, how it is a complex word, sir?
Disagreement, how it is a complex word. We are
Yes.
talking about morphemes. Okay, when it comes to morphemes, we are talking about the kind of word formation. In, let's see, disagreement, there are 3 morphemes here. Okay, so because it is 3, okay, so it is not simple like boy or desire, right? In terms of boy, it's 1 morpheme, right?
It may be a compound word also.
It may be a compound
Maybe.
word. I'm telling you an example in reference to morphemes only. Okay.
Okay.
So do not deviate from what is a morpheme into grammar. Okay. If you get into grammar, that's a different debate altogether. Okay. Just focus on morphemes right now.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Now, what is root? Root is the morpheme around which words can be built up through the addition of affixes. Example of English roots are read in reader, do in redo, CEIVE in conceive, then LING in linguist. Okay, that is the root in a particular morpheme. A root may or may not stand alone. Read and do may stand alone, whereas CEIVE or LING may not stand alone because they need somebody else, something else to support them. When a root morpheme is combined with an affix, it forms a stem and a new word. Then again, in future, you will get to know what is a stem. Okay, now root is clarified. A root is a morpheme around which words can be built up through the addition of affixes. Example of English roots are read in reader, do in redo, CEIVE in conceive, then LING in linguist. A root may or may not stand alone, as example in read and in do, but in terms of CEIVE or LING, they cannot stand alone, they need another morpheme to support. Okay. Now, types of morphemes. Morphemes can be categorized into two classes, a free morpheme or a bound morpheme. Just a sec, let me switch on my one sec. Yeah, I'm back. So what is a free morpheme? It's a unit of meaning which can stand alone as an independent word or alongside another free or bound morpheme. For an example, the word tree, rake, date, it cannot be split into anything smaller. Okay, that's why they are called as a free morpheme.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
There is a diagram morpheme.
Sorry. Your audio is not working.
Hello.
No, your audio is not working.
Okay, sir. Okay, thank
Okay. So what I'll suggest is, like, instead of asking questions right now, you will just focus on the slides and whatever we are discussing right now. Towards the end, or possibly preferably after the class, or whenever all of us are free, like many of you are asking questions in WhatsApp and an email, I'm replying to them, even though sometimes I might run late, but I do respond to all the emails and WhatsApps and even the calls. So nothing to worry about that. In terms of linguistics, in terms of phonetics, it is always going to be a challenge for all of us, including the teacher and students, because it's such a complex phenomena. We need to be really focused, because like I told you, if you talk about morpheme and you lose your focus, then you get into phoneme, then you get confused. What is a morpheme and a phoneme? Okay, suppose you talk about morphology, you get into syntax, then you are in trouble. Suppose you are talking about speech mechanism, then you get into history of language, then you are in trouble. Then word formation is another different ball game altogether. So just focus for the time being. Let's see how it goes. If something goes wrong or some clarification, some doubt clearances are needed, it will be done in due course of time. Okay. Yes. So what is a free morpheme? It's a unit of meaning which can stand alone as an independent word or alongside another free or bound morpheme. For an example, tree, rake, date, it cannot be split into anything smaller. Okay, and what are other free morphemes? Content words and functions words are free morpheme as well. And what are content words and what are function words? Who can tell me what is a content word? Please switch on your audio or type in the text box. Okay.
Don't know, sir. Please explain.
Content words are words that have meaning. They can be compared to grammatical words which are structural. Likewise, nouns, main verbs, adjectives, adverbs are usually content words. Okay, and what are function words? Like auxiliary verbs, pronouns, articles, prepositions are usually grammatical word or function words. I repeat, content words are words that have meaning. They can be compared to grammatical words or which are structural. Those are nouns, main verbs, adjectives, and adverbs are usually content words. I'll tell you how they are content words in due course of time. Just wait. I believe it is in your study material. There is content word and structure word. Let me navigate to that, and I'll give you that. Just wait. Content word and structure words. Okay. Just a bit. Okay, I'll get into that later. Just for the timing, just remember that much. Okay. Now in the next slide, it is there. I was searching for that for no reason. Yes, content words, independent words. For example, nouns, verbs, adjectives, and adverbs. Function words serve to indicate some grammatical function. Otherwise, they are called as grammatical words. For an example, conjunction, articles, and prepositions. Okay, when you talk about nouns or verbs or adjectives or adverbs, they are in comparison to these function words, they are independent and they have a particular meaning. Mostly, not always, but mostly they have a meaning. But in terms of conjunctions, articles, demonstratives, and prepositions, usually they depend on somebody else to have a meaning, and usually they have a function of grammatical function. So that's why they are called function words, and these are called content words. And in the context of morpheme, free morpheme is content word can be a free morpheme, and function words free morphemes. And what is a bound morpheme? It's a unit of meaning which can only exist alongside a free morpheme. That means the bound morpheme cannot be independent. It cannot exist without the help of a free morpheme. You need a free morpheme to have a bound morpheme. Must be attached to another morpheme or word. Affixes are bound. What is affixes? I hope you know what is affix or prefix or suffix. Okay, I'll let you know in detail. Don't worry. Now, affixes are referred to. Prefixes are attached to the beginning of another morpheme, such as prefix re in words like redo or rewrite or rethink. Suffixes are attached to the end of another morpheme, such as suffix ise, ize, or in words like modernize, equalize, centralize, and ing in the words like sleeping, eating, and running. So affixes can be divided into two categories. One is prefixes, one is suffixes. And prefixes, technically, it happens before the word or morpheme, and suffixes, it happens after the word or towards the end of the morpheme or the word. The reason why I'm actually synonymously using word and morpheme, because even though morpheme is the word is the next version of morpheme. Morpheme is the smaller version of a word, but sometimes it is being used synonymously in the book, and there is also a difference marker, or there are the differences between a word and a morpheme is being given. I'll also give you that, but for the time being, just look at affixes, and they are categorized into prefixes and suffixes. Okay. Many languages have prefixes and suffixes. However, they may differ in how they deploy these morphemes. A morpheme that is a prefix in one language may be a suffix in another language, and it can happen vice versa. Example, in English, the plural morphemes s and es are suffixes, boys, but in other languages, it may be, like in Mexico, ka or jizi can be, be a prefix. Okay, I do not have any expertise in Mexican languages, but I just collected that from an internet source and I found it is interesting, so I put that in this slide. Yes, in certain languages but not English also have affixes known as infixes. For example, this is also another language which I have no expertise, but I just wanted to give an example for your examination point of view. Like from Philippines, infix in is used to indicate the product of a completed action. Like the word kayu, meaning wood. When the infix in is inserted after the first consonant K, it's like kinayu, meaning gathered wood. You can give these kind of examples from any other languages depending on your accessibility. Like suppose you have access to other language like Odia, Sanskrit and other things, you know inside out the morphological combination of a particular word in Odia, Sanskrit or Hindi, you can give better examples than that. But I just found this is interesting one. It's connected to English. I know it depends on you what kind of examples you would give in examinations. Some languages have circumfixes or morphemes that are attached to a base morpheme, both initial and final. Example, like in German language, okay? Affixes or prefixes or suffixes that are attached to words follow certain grammatical properties of a given word. For example, verbs takes the suffix s in the present tense, er, suffix er, walk becomes walker, walk becomes walks. Verbs can take the suffix ing, drink becomes drinking. Verbs have a special form used in the past tense, wait, waited. But irregular verbs from the past tense in other ways, sometimes it is sing becomes sang. In some cases it becomes, you find d or ed, but in other cases it becomes the spelling changes. So these are certain simple examples for you to understand free morpheme and bound morpheme. Then what kind of suffixes adjectives take? Mostly er or est. Big becomes bigger, bigger becomes biggest. But some adjectives cannot take er or est. Instead, with words more and most, like beautiful, more beautiful, then most beautiful, something like that. But in case of adverbs, adverbs share many of the properties of adjectives and are often formed from adjectives by the addition of the suffix ly. Quick becomes quickly, easy becomes easily, slow becomes slowly. So in our school days, our teacher used to tell us how to find out what is an adverb, which one is an adverb in terms of recognizing the word or the part of the speech. We used to find out, like if you find ly, it's an adverb. Okay, that's not a foolproof formula, but it's a tried and tested one for our students in vernacular schools. Again, it must be noted that not all bound morphemes are affixes. For example, in English, certain words have contracted forms, like they will go, or in a contracted form spelled as ll with apostrophe, is a bound morpheme in that it cannot occur as an independent word and must be attached to the preceding word or phrase they will, they'll. Usually you use will, but in terms of if you use ll like this, then it becomes a bound morpheme. Okay, so it doesn't have to be a prefix or suffix. Without a prefix or suffix, it can be a bound morpheme as well. Then s, the contracted form of s with apostrophe, the contracted form is. The old car is not running anymore. Okay. Then ve is the contracted form of have. They have gone jogging. Okay. Then d with apostrophe, the contracted form of would. I'd like to be rich. Then m with apostrophe, the contracted form of am. I'm not going. Like suppose if I say what I'm saying, in this particular sentence, depending on my pronunciation, I'm not saying what I am saying. I'm saying what I'm saying. Okay. So in that case, I have used the contracted form of am. Then another type of bound morpheme is illustrated by the morpheme cran, which occurs in words such as cranberry. You can say canberry, but in certain cases it is cranberry, cranapple, cranprion. The form cran cannot stand alone as a free morpheme, must occur within words such as just cited. For this reason, cran is a bound morpheme. So that is another example of bound morpheme. Then morphemes, free morphemes, bound morphemes. In free morphemes, you have content words and function words or structure words. Content words, nouns, verbs, adjectives, adverbs. In function words, you have conjunctions like and or, articles like a and the, then demonstratives like this or that, then prepositions like to, from, at, something like that, then comparatives like more or less. Then in bound morphemes, you have affixes like prefixes and suffixes. I have told you what is a prefix, what is a suffix. Okay. Then contracted forms, I gave you this apostrophe with double L is a form of will, then D with apostrophe, would, then have. Okay. These are the classifications of morphemes. Now this is a task for you. Name other prefixes in English. Give me 5 examples in the text box. Like I gave you non, meaning not. Examples: non-resident, non-conformist, nonsense. Likewise, you give me 5 another prefixes with their meaning with examples. You have 5 minutes for that. I'm minimizing the slide and I'm looking at the text box. Kundan Kumar Singh writes, describe dispensable preposition. Yes, but meaning. You haven't given meaning. You have to.
So I can give the meaning orally, sir.
Okay.
Describe means talking about something more elaborative way.
Okay.
Dispensable means something which cannot keep with us.
No, dispensable meaning I understand. Okay. But I want you to describe the prefix only, not the word.
Okay, sir. After that, I can say conjunction. Con is also prefix.
No, I understand con is a prefix, but what does it mean in that particular word?
Con means with together. When we joined with 2 words are together, it adds words or sentences.
Okay, I understand. Okay. Now over to Sipa, Sutapa. Yes, uncomfortable.
Yes, sir.
In
Sir,
yes.
un is the prefix. It means not or the opposite of.
Okay, Kundan writes conjunction. Yes. Anybody else?
The re also we can say reuse. Re means again.
Okay. Amrita writes pre, re, un, and d. Yes, these are which have others have given already. You give me new ones, prefixes. I'm asking Amrita for new prefixes. Thinking. Okay, continue. Okay. Okay, you continue to do that. Then other suffixes in English, like you have CIDE, like pesticide. Okay. You give me other examples in the text box. Okay. Then another task for you, all of you, find an article from the newspaper, identify the 15 words which are free and bound morphemes, separate the bound and free morphemes in the table. And you can send me this particular answer to my WhatsApp or to my mail. Okay.
What, sir? What you have asked, sir?
This task 3, is it visible to you in the slide?
Yes, sir.
Find an article from any newspaper of your choice, then
Yes, sir.
identify the 15 words which have free and bound morphemes.
Okay, sir. Thanks.
Okay.
Okay, sir.
And you can send me the answer to my WhatsApp or to my email.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Then you have to separate the bound and free morphemes in the table. Okay. I'm going to the other slide. Priya Paripew. Okay. See, I have not got your WhatsApp number, sir. My WhatsApp number is. Okay. Okay. Let me go to the other slide. Okay. I'm giving you more examples in this particular slide. Word formation process. Is it visible to all of you? Hello.
Yes, sir. Visual.
Okay. 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 Check. We have already talked about this word, how it is a single distinct meaning speech or writing. The term word may refer to a spoken word or to a written word or sometimes to the abstract concept behind either. I've already talked about that. Spoken words are made up of units of sound called phonemes and written words of symbols called graphemes, such as the letters of English alphabet, but in a different level, it is morpheme. Okay. In linguistics, a word is the smallest element that can be uttered in isolation with objective or practical meaning. We have already discussed that. This contrasts deeply with a morpheme, which is the smallest unit of meaning but will not necessarily stand on its own. I've already told you that as well. Yes, I also told you, in a word you have phonemes, you have morphemes. I told you what is a phoneme, what is a morpheme. Phoneme, any of the perceptually distinct units of sound in a specific language that distinguish one word from another. Okay. A word may consist of a single morpheme. I've already given you that example as well. In the other slide, I gave you boy. In this particular slide, it is oh, rock, red, quick, run, expect. Okay. Or several morphemes like rocks, redness, quickly, running, unexpected. Whereas a morpheme may not be able to stand on its own as a word. The word just as mentioned, these are S or NESS or LY or ING or UN or ED. That's what I've already discussed. I'm going to something else. Then how a word is formed with the help of a morpheme. The process consists of a combination of morphemes that are rule governed. Okay, now the concept of grammar comes up. Okay, there is rule, or there are rules which are to be followed while combining morphemes to a word. And what are those? Major word formation processes, like processes that are formed frequently or commonly in the use of English language. I've already told you affixation, affixes, prefix or suffixes. Example, singer. Unreal, again affixes, suffix or prefix. Adding an established prefix or suffix to the existing base, that is the technical definition of affixation. Then suffixation is characteristics of noun and adjective formation. The suffix usually changes not only the lexical meaning of a word but also its grammatical meaning or word class. Okay, like beauty, when it becomes beautiful, it changes its meaning. Again, noun forming suffixes, I'm giving you more examples in this. Sorry. Suffixes or, actor, visitor, director. Suffixes er or er, speaker, engineer, opener, ist, scientist, satirist, journalist, ess, hostess, stewardess, actress. Then ty or ity, cruelty, purity, stupidity. Then ure or ture, failure, exposure, mixture. Then dom, freedom, kingdom. Then age, passage, marriage, postage. So these are the noun and their suffixes examples. Then more examples for suffixes like ance or ence, appearance, preference. Then HOOD, hood, likelihood, brotherhood, neighborhood. Then ing, reading, opening, beginning. Then ion, sion, tion, ition, ation. These are the possible suffixes. Operation, permission, description. Then NESS, kindness, goodness, willingness. Then Y or ERY, difficulty, enquiry, robbery, slavery. Then SHIP, partnership, membership, kinship. Then MENT, government, development, movement. Then for T, suffix, complaint, restraint. And look at the word complaint plus T, complaint. Restraint plus T, restraint. Like it's like, in our classic good old days in Odia, you find Sandhi Vicheda in Odia. If all of you have read Odia, I do not know how many of you have read Odia. You have Sandhi Vicheda in Odia grammar. Even in some cases, other concepts which are close to these suffixes and affixes. Then adjective forming suffixes. Example, for suffix like able or ible, comfortable, fashionable, sensible. Then for ic or atic, atomic, heroic, systematic. Then ful, beautiful, helpful, careful. Then for y, bloody, dirty, shunny. Then less, useless, homeless, careless. Then AL or IAL or TIAL, for this kind of suffixes, personal, influential, preferential. Okay, in the context of suffixes and affixes, uh, which concept of phonology, or in the first three classes which we have studied, which concept has similarity to this suffixes and affixes? Who can tell me? Either you type in the text box or switch on your audio and tell me.
Once again, question, please, sir.
Which concept of phonology or speech mechanism does have some similarities like this morphological analysis or suffixes or affixes? Should I give you a clue? It is related to consonant sounds. No reply? None? Okay, it is consonant clusters. Like in morphology, you have suffixes and affixes. In phonology, you have consonant clusters. When you have 2 or 3 or more consonant sounds clubbed together, they are called as consonant clusters. Likewise, in morphology, you have morphemes coming together with affix or suffixes. Okay, then become 3 or bound morphemes or something like that. So you have to correlate this phonology and morphology to be very clear about what you are learning right now. Okay, then examples for suffixes of AL or IAL or TIAL: personal, influential, preferential. These are the examples of suffixes of adjectives. More examples for IVE or ATIVE or ITIVE. Examples: active, creative, sensitive. Then suffixes for ANT or ENT: pleasant, different, excellent. Then examples for EN: wooden, golden, woolen. Then suffix like LIKE: childlike, ladylike. Okay, then ING: amusing, interesting, charming. Then OUS: dangerous. Mind you, many of you or many of us do pronounce this word as dangerous. Okay, that is a cardinal mistake in English. Do not fall for that. Sorry, avoid that kind of silly mistakes. All of us do commit certain errors in pronunciation because English is not our native language. Having said that, we can try. Then famous, mysterious. Then ISH: bookish, childish, foolish. Then LY: friendly, lovely, manly. Then examples of verbs forming suffixes: IZE or ISE: civilize, modernize. Then IFY or FY or EFY: simplify, glorify, deepen. Sorry, for EN you have deepen, sharpen, lengthen. Then adverb forming suffixes: LY: formally, calmly, easily. Adverbs forming suffixes, example WARD or WARDS. Homeward, afterwards, backwards. Then examples of suffixes of wise or ways, clockwise, otherwise, sideways. Then examples for FOLD, twofold, threefold. Then prefixation or prefixes. I've already told you what is this, just I'm giving you more examples for that. A prefix usually changes or concretizes the lexical meaning of a word and only rarely parts of speech. Something like write, rewrite, smoker, non-smoker. Prefixes are sometimes used to form new verb like circle becomes encircle, large become enlarge. Examples, more examples. Negation or opposition, if the meaning is negation or opposition, then example UN, unable, unfair, unpack, unzip. Then DIS, disagreeable, dislike. Then prefix like only a or a, like amoral, atypical, or you can say apolitical. Somebody who is not political, he can be called as apolitical. Then informal, inexperience. Then I am, impossible, immoral. Then IL before L, illegal, illogical. Then IR before R, irregular, irrational. Then non-smoker, non-scientific. Then decode, defrost, devalue. Then repetition meaning, making it possible. Prefix, reread, rebuild, reunited. Then examples for EN and EM, enrich, enlarge, embitter. Okay, then in the meaning of degree or measure or size, supersonic, superhuman. Then semi-final, or in certain pronunciation in British and American, one is semi-final, one is semi-final. Okay, one is semi-detached, one is semi-detached. Then hyperactive, hypersensitive, hypertension. Okay. Then ultraviolet, ultra high. Then overtime, overpopulated. Then in the meaning of time, place, order or relation, prefixes such as post-war, postpone, postgraduate, international, intercontinental, pre-war, prehistoric, pre-arrange. Then example, ex-president, ex-husband, ex-film star. Then number and numerical relation. For examples, bilateral,
Hello?
bilabial. Yes.
So in mediate, can we use intermediate?
One sec. Intermediate. Yes. Intermediate. Yes.
Is it possible? Intermediate.
Yes. Morpheme. That is morpheme, and that is in this case it can be a prefix. Okay. No problem. Okay. In number and numerical relation, if you have bilateral, bilabial, like I told you, bilabial plosive, that is b. Okay. In phonetics or phonology, I told you that. Then UNI, unisex, unicycle, unilateral. Then autobiography, auto-pump, auto-suggestion, auto-correct. All those are correct. Then multi or multinational in American, in British multinational. multi-storied or multi-story or multilingual. Mind you, is kind of examples like this, semi-final or semi-final, either or either. Mind you, both of them are correct. One is American pronunciation, one is British pronunciation. So do not criticize or kind of fall for something like that. That somebody is saying wrong or you do not know. You have to know both. But primarily we follow British English, so we have to follow British pronunciation. But if you live in America, if you go to America, you have to speak in their accent or their style, right? Then examples of attitude or collaboration or membership. Then again, anti or anti, both of them are correct. Anti-social, anti-war, anti-freeze. Then counter, counter-offensive, counter-revolution. Sometimes you can say counter-productive. Then pro-English, pro-Vice Chancellor. Then pejoration. Who can tell me what is the meaning of pejoration? Pejoration. Can somebody tell me what is the meaning of pejoration?
Something like bad, sir.
Sorry?
Something like bad.
No, something which is degenerating or worsening, right? In that is the primary meaning. In other case, what else? What is the meaning of pejoration? It's like depreciation or lessening in worth or quality. That is the primary meaning. Okay. In linguistics, it is semantic change in a word to a lower or less approved or less respectable meaning. Suppose inform and misinform, it's like negative, right? Lead and mislead, use and misuse, that is a negative connotation is there in these particular meanings. Okay, misinform, mislead, misuse, then pseudo-scientific, pseudo-intellectual, somebody who presents himself as if I am Mr. Know-all, I know everything, but when it comes to the real delivery, he behaves as if he's a pseudo-intellectual. I mean, he projected himself as I know everything, but actually he doesn't. Okay, so that is pseudo. Then there is another concept in morphology, that compounding of morphemes. A process that forms new words from two or more independent words, like girl plus friend, girlfriend, text plus book, textbook. Okay, this is pretty simple. Actually all of us do know these things, but technicalities of this particular concept we didn't know. But we have been using these kind of words, these kind of things in our day-to-day English, but we are not thorough about the concepts of technical aspects of morphology. Okay, so compounding is the joining of two separate words to produce a single form, or compounding is very common in English and German. Compound nouns like bookcase, doorknob, sunburn. Compound adjectives examples: low paid, good looking. Okay, that is also in word formation. There is something called reduplication or duplication, process of forming new words either by doubling an entire word or part of a word. English makes use of reduplication very sporadically. Total reduplication is extremely rare, but there are reduplication examples: Humpty Dumpty. Okay, examples: okay dokie, okay dokie, zigzag, walkie talkie, bling bling, knock knock, huss huss. New words are formed by either doubling an entire free morpheme or part of it. These are the examples. Okay, bling bling, knock knock, huss huss, walkie talkie, zigzag. These are the examples of reduplication. You might find a short note in your examination that explain the process of word formation with all the types and examples. Then you have to write everything if it is a long question. But if it is a short notes, then reduplication, you give this definition, then this meaning, then examples. Another style of word formation, that is suppletion, a relationship between forms of a word wherein one form cannot be phonologically or morphologically derived from the other. This process is rare, but examples: am versus was, go versus went. I mean, am is totally different in terms of morphological structure. Was is totally different. Was is totally different. So as go and went, though it is a past tense of the earlier one, but again, it's morphologically it is totally different. Even phonologically, it is totally different. But it is derived from the other. That is what called suppletion. Then minor word formation process, which is very rare in English, but still it is there. Something called acronym. Okay. Words that are formed from the initials of several words, that is RAM. Example: random access memory. CD, compact disc. Then VCR, video cassette recorder. Acronyms are new words formed from the initial letter of a set of other words. Examples: you know more examples than me, I believe. So who can tell me, radar is a word or it's an acronym? Radar is a word or it's an acronym? Either you type in the text box or you let me know in audio by switching on your audio.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
I think radar has both meaning and as well as it is an acronym, sir. Because radar means a device which traces something, and I have also seen that it is written in capital letter.
No, radar is actually an acronym, okay? And we have confused that as a normal word. So it is an acronym actually. It has a full form. Who can tell me the full form of radar? Without using Google, you let me know. You tell me. Radar.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Radio detection and radio detection and rating or something.
Okay. Anyone else?
Radio detection and ranging.
Yes, radio detection and ranging. That is radar.
Manasmita
Okay.
has typed so that.
Okay. Okay. Manasmita, thank you. Then ATM.
Automatic teller machine.
Automatic or automated?
Automated. Automated, sir.
Automated.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Automated. Okay. Then give me five more examples. You type in the text box or you tell me by switching your audio.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Hello.
Yes. You are audible. Yes.
UDAI. UIDAI.
Okay.
Unique Identification Authority of India.
Is it correct? I am not sure. Okay. PCCID. Saraswati Pal writes PCCID. Okay. What is PC and what is CID? PC is personal computer. CID is crime investigation department or what? Barsarani Sahu writes WHO. Okay. If you write WHO, you have to write it in capitals. Otherwise, it becomes a normal word. UNICEF, yes. ROM. Amrita writes ROM, yes. In your book, you find AIR, All India Radio, BBC. Who can tell me what is the full form of BBC?
British Broadcasting, sir.
British
No,
Broadcasting Channel.
no, British Broadcasting Corporation, I believe. Okay. And what is the full form of NATO? NATO,
North Atlantic Treaty Organization.
North Atlantic Treaty Organization. Yes, you are correct. Then what is the full form of UNESCO? United Nations. Yes.
United Nations.
United Nations
Space.
Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization. That is UNESCO. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Then UFO.
Unidentified flying object.
Unidentified
Flying object.
flying object. Yes. Then FBI.
Federal Bureau of Investigation.
Okay. ISI.
It was in my mind.
Okay. It is Inter Service Intelligence. That is the intelligence organization of Pakistan. Okay. Okay. Ankita Barik writes CBI. That's a household name in India. Central Bureau of Investigations. Right. And then IB.
Investi Indian Bu- in-
Intelligence Bureau.
Bureau.
Yes. Then COD. I believe all of you are very familiar with this.
Cash on delivery.
Cash on delivery.
Okay. Okay. All of you are, shopaholics, I believe. All of you do shop a lot and through this online medium. Okay. So these are the examples of acronyms. Okay. Then let's go
DOB.
to, sorry,
Sir, DOB.
DOB. Yes, date of birth. Okay, date of birth, right? Okay. Now, what is blending? Blending is another concept of morphology. Word formation. What is blending? Process of creating a new word by combining the parts of two different words, usually the beginning of one word and the end of another. Okay, like in India, you do not find this concept of motel, but in US you find motel. Okay, there is hotel, there is also help and assistance in terms of your motor cars. Okay, it is motor plus hotel, motel, then camera plus recorder, camcorder. Okay, you have been using this. Okay, then this blending, the combination of sorry, I have sorry, there is a spelling mistake here. It is TWO. Please read that as TWO. Okay. The combination of two separate forms to produce a single form is blending. But blending is accomplished by taking the beginning of one word and joining it to the end of the other word. Another word. Okay, example: smog, smoke plus fog. Then brunch, breakfast plus lunch. Then Spanglish, Spanish plus English. And in India, people call it Hinglish, Hindi plus English. Okay. In the context of blending, I want to tell you, in your book, in your study material, blends can be classified into three types. Okay. One is group forming blend, another one is compound blend. You go to page number 82 in your morphology book, block 4, you find these examples. Okay. Phonoaesthetic blends, then there is compound blends, then there is group forming blends. Okay.
One second, please, sir.
Page number 82 in your morphology book, if you have that.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. I believe that is available with you. Okay. There are three kind of blends. One is phonoaesthetic blends, another is compound blends, then group forming blends. Okay. So these are three categories. Examples are there in the book as well. You go through that. Okay. I'm running through. I'm actually running late, so I'm going to the next slide. Clipping. So what is clipping in word formation? Clipping means process of creating new words by shortening parts of a longer word. Example: doctor, doc, dormitory, dorm. Okay, that's the way we have meaningful conversation in our day-to-day life. Then clipping occurs. Please switch up your sound if you're not telling anything to me. If you're not communicating anything to me, please. Yes. Clipping occurs when a word with more than one syllable is reduced to a shorter form. Okay. Example: gas has been clipped from gasoline, fan, fanatic, or advertisement becomes ad in our conversations. So that is an example of clipping.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Can bus be an example of clipping because it is coming from omnibus?
I'm not sure. I have to check. To be
Okay.
honest, when I'm not sure, I cannot subscribe any view. Okay. But
Okay.
you might individually check that, because sometimes what happens when it comes to English language or linguistics, or for that matter any kind of word meanings, nobody is a Mr. Know-all, right? I have my limitations, and I have to be honest and brutally honest about that. So right now you can check boss. Okay. Okay, let me go through dictionary.com. Let's see what is the result. Dictionary, yes. You can check individually, all of you as well, right now, no issue. Because when there is doubt, you have to check. No, in the dictionary, it is not anything clear about that. Okay, we'll check that later, no issue. Then I'm moving to the next slide. A special type of reduction is hypocorisms. Okay, what is this word? That is also difficult to pronounce. A longer word is reduced to a single syllable, then A or Y or IE. For example, movie, moving picture, hanky, handkerchief. Okay. Please note down the examples if you want, or if you want, I can share the slides as well. But better you should, be mindful when we are moving on with the slides, because uh, in the process, it will help you to remember. Okay. A longer word is reduced to a single syllable, and then it becomes A or Y or IE. Okay. Example, movie, from moving picture. Handkerchief becomes hanky in our conversations. Then word coinage. Coinage is the invention of a totally new term. Sources of the coined words, trade names of commercial products that become general terms like aspirin, Nilex, Teflon, Xerox. Mind you, Xerox or Xerox, which we use in normal conversation in day-to-day life, Xerox is the name of a company. Okay. Ideally, the word what we use as Xerox. Okay, that is wrong. You have to avoid that. That is one of the many common errors we commit every day in our day-to-day conversations. New words based on the name of a person or a place. Hoover, jeans or sandwich. Okay, that is the way coinage works. I'm giving you more examples of how word
Sir,
coinage. Yes.
coinage means?
Coinage means the invention of a totally new term. Okay, and the
Okay, sir.
sources from which words are being coined, these are the examples.
Okay, sir.
Okay, one is trade name, one is new words based on the name of a person or a place. Did you get that, all of you, all the slides? Okay, in this short span of time today, actually I tried to run through my slides quicker because I had less time, and so
Sir,
I thought I should touch.
excuse me,
Yes,
sir.
yes.
I could not get the slide of sir fee morpheme. Fee morpheme, yes, sir.
Free muffin. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, let me check. Let me check. In the last slide, I believe, not in this particular PPT, right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, let me go back to that free morpheme. Just wait. Now, this is the one who I collected from another source. Okay, I'll get back to that. Just let me check. Okay, free morpheme. Yes. Did you get that free morpheme?
Yes, I got the screenshot.
Okay, free morpheme. It's a unit of meaning which can stand alone as an independent word or alongside another free or bound morpheme. Example: tree, rake, date. It cannot be split into anything smaller. Content words and functions words are free morphemes. Examples I gave you: independent words like nouns, verbs, adjectives, adverbs. Okay. Then function words like grammatical words like uh, conjunctions, articles, demonstratives, and prepositions. So these are the examples of free morphemes.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Okay, please look at all your texts if you do have one right now. I'm just running through again, running through the course material again for your understanding. Go to all the chapters. There is a section called summary as well as uh, keywords, right? If you read that summary, you'll be in a better position to correlate what I'm trying to tell you. Okay, that is one one strategy you may adopt. Look at these keywords: bound morpheme, morpheme which must combine with a free morpheme to be realized as a word. What is composition? A relationship between the units of two levels of structure in which the units of higher level are made up of. Okay, what is a free morpheme? A morpheme which can be realized as a word by itself. What is function words? Words belonging to the categories of articles, pronouns, auxiliaries, conjunctions, prepositions which have no lexical meaning but only perform grammatical functions. They are included in the category of grammatical words. Then what is a grammatical word? A word apprehended as a grammatical unit, as a unit resulting from the application of some grammatical rule to a lexical word. The term also covers function words. What is homographs? When two or more phonological words are represented by the same orthographic word, same spelling, different pronunciation, we get homographs. Then what is homonym? When two or more lexical words are represented by the same phonological or orthographic word, then homophone. What is lexical word or lexeme? The word considered as an abstract meaning bearing unit, independent of the various grammatical forms. Then what is morpheme? The smallest meaningful or grammatically functional unit of a language. What is orthographic word? The word conceived as a stretch of written or printed signs. What is phonological word? The word conceived as a stretch of spoken sounds. Okay, that is unit 1. Then again you have English morphology, other books. I can provide you one book. Today I have one with me with his morphology. I'll tell you what is that. Let me check. Okay. An Introduction to English Morphology, Words and Their Structure by Andrew McCarthy. Okay, Edinburgh University Press. I have this with me. I'll share that in your group so that you will be in a position to dive deep into morphology, words and the structures. Okay, the many things in addition to IGNOU book. I mean, IGNOU book is sufficient for you, but if you want to study more, if you want to get into the nitty-gritties of morphology, you go to this. Okay, words, sentences and dictionaries, roots, affixes and shapes, inflection, then you have derivation, then you have compound words, blend, phrasal words, word and its structure, productivity, historical sources of English word formation, conclusion, everything is there. It will be actually very beneficial for all of you if you go through that.
In which book, sir?
Kindly share this book in the group, sir.
Yeah, I'll share that right now. In fact, after the class, I'll share that. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Nothing to worry. Okay, so this is unit 1, and again you go through these questions and exercises. Okay, if you do these questions, it will actually sharpen your skill in morphology. I know it is slightly difficult, and it's slightly, all of us are very lazy in our approach to life and our English, but you can do it. Okay, so you can go through those questions and exercises. You can download the previous year's questions from IGNOU site. Okay, and you can go through that, what kind of questions are there, so that you will be preparing yourself in a better way.
Sir, I have all the previous year questions of MEG4, sir.
Okay,
Should I send it in the group?
yes, you can send that in the group, no problem. Okay, because again in unit 2 you have again process of word formation, simple, complex and compound words. Again you go to this summary part. You read this summary, it is as good as reading the whole book, a whole chapter. But in linguistics or in phonetics, you need to be much more thorough about that. Okay. Then there are some keywords. You have to understand these things. What is an allomorph? What is aspect? What is base? Allomorph is one of the morphs that represent a particular morpheme. Aspect, a grammatical marking in the verb that indicates whether the what is denoted by the verb is in progress or has been completed. Whether the action is completed or action is written in a type mistake, typo, I believe, typing mistake. Okay, it's like Aklian or so. I was confused. What is that? Okay, and then what is a base? A morpheme or a combination of morphemes to which bound morphemes are added. Same as stem. So base is equal to stem. What is bound base? A base consisting of a bound morpheme only. Then bound grammatical morpheme, bound lexical morpheme, complex word, a word that realizes one free morpheme and one or more than one bound morpheme. In some cases, it also realizes two or more bound morphemes, of which one is a bound base rather, sorry. So these are the things you will be in a position to know if you read through these kind of what is a suffix, what is stem, what is simple word, what is root, what is primary verb, what is prefix, what is paradigm, what is non-finite verb. Everything is there. It is unit 2. You go to unit 3, you find again summary and the keywords. Let me go to that. Again, this is summary. Okay. Then keywords. What is adjective suffix? What is adjective compound? What is adverb suffix? It is almost a revision of your whatever you have read, as well as addition of some new knowledge in terms of morphology and other things in English. Okay, you go to unit 4, you find again this summary and questions and these keywords that will help you in many ways of your understanding. Okay, what is an acronym? An acronym is a letter word or a word from the first letters of a series of words constituting the name of an organization, a scientific product, process, etc. if it is pronounced as a single word and not as a series of letters. Then what is alphabetism? What is back formation? What is compound blends? Everything is there. Then group forming blends, phonoaesthetic blends, clipping, the shortening of a long word by dropping some part of it. What is back clipping? When shortening is achieved by dropping the end part of the word. What is fore clipping or aft clipping? And there is some printing mistakes, but you can study that. When the shortening is achieved by dropping part of the beginning or at the end of a word. What is fore clipping? When shortening is achieved by dropping a part from the front of the word. What is coining? Creating new words through processes like back formation, blending, acronym formation, reduplication, clipping, etc. What is meaning change? These are the things you need to look into. Again, this bibliography is also important because from this source you can get different books. And there are many books which is available in Google itself. Okay, you can download them. Okay, then you go to these questions and exercises. Better than these questions, if you go through previous year questions, collect 5 years or 10 years questions and answer that, try to answer that, and try to question yourself and your understanding of morphology or phonology or history of language or anything else. Okay, mind you, in open and distance learning, it is difficult for a teacher or for a counselor to be to be foolproof in terms of your understanding or in terms of his delivery, because in 2 hours time to complete a book, it is humanly impossible. Okay, and just because I wanted to give you a certain idea what is what morphology is, so I tried to come up with 2 PowerPoints. Okay, and even in haste, I also committed 1 or 2 spelling mistakes. So it happens. Mistakes are part and parcels of our lives, and we have to own it up. You cannot just run away from that. If you go wrong, you go wrong. It's okay. If you don't, then it's okay. It's fine. But you have to accept that and move on. So I would suggest that whatever books available with you in addition to your IGNOU material, as such IGNOU material is sufficient. But if you want to sharpen your knowledge, if you want to add some value to your knowledge in terms of this MEG 04 or any other paper, or for that matter your assignments, you help yourself by adding some books to your library and studying them and finding out find out what are the issues which you need to sort out. So you have to plan really well ahead of your time. Okay, you can't just wait and watch and be a fence sitter. If you do that, then nothing is gonna change and nothing is gonna happen. So better you start studying today. From today onwards. MEG4 is mark fetching, but it's difficult because it's like mathematics. If you can understand everything, then it's fine. If you don't, you cannot just remember everything in MEG4. MEG1, poetry, you might have to remember many things. 2 and 3, again, drama and novels, you have to remember many things. The stories, the background, the plot, the structure, the symbolism, or the author, the biography, or the context, or the social setting of that age, you need that in 1, 2, and 3. But in paper 4, and specifically in these later blocks like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, you need understanding. You need to have a fundamental understanding of what you actually know about morphology or syntax or phonology, something like that. So if you do that, it is better. And like I told you, you go through those bibliography, you go through those what can I say, that summary, that keywords, that is very handy. Actually, that's very useful for all of you. If you do that, it is good. Okay, I believe.
Excuse me, sir. Hello.
Yes.
Uh, there is a book called M. Balasubramaniam, right? On linguistics.
Yeah.
Sir, will that book be good if I buy it? Does it substantially cover the topics of all these 8 or 9 blocks of MEG4?
Yes, Balasubramaniam is a good book. You go for that. Okay. I would suggest
Okay, sir.
if you go for only phonology part, you go to there is a book called Spoken English by R.K. Bansal or J.B. Harrison by Orient Lungman. Okay, that book is good for phonology or kind of group block 2. Okay, that
Sir,
is very
please type in the chat box the names and the publishers. Sir, please type if possible.
okay. I'm doing that. I'm concluding my presentation, but I'm typing that. Just wait. Okay. Kundan Kumar Singh writes, too much reading for one night. Yes, it is too much, and that is the trouble. Okay. The book I'm talking about is Spoken English by R.A. Bansal and J.B. Harrison. Okay. Publisher is Orient Lungman. Okay. This is a good book for your let me see, that is your block 2 specifically. Let me check syllabus once more. Okay. sorry, for block 3A and 3B, that is the best book in the what is available in the market. It is a good book for block 3A and B. Okay. And that Balasubramaniam book is also a good one. You go for that. The whole paper for Balasubramaniam is a good one. Okay.
So then, spoken English by Orient Longman, it is for block 3 and 3A, right? Specifically.
3A and 3B. Yes, 3. Okay. That is good for that. Okay. Or in addition to that, I'm actually sending you that morphology book. It is good one. Okay. I'm sending you in the group. Okay. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that's it for the day. We'll meet again tomorrow, I believe, for the next class.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm leaving the meeting right now.